Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super discussion video. That's right, we are back with the discussion videos with other YouTubers, and today, once again, I have joining me the one, the only World King Kanji. And yes, as I said last time, this is the only time I'm going to say Kanji, that time and this time, but from the future on here, because I'm a good Southern boy, it's gonna be Kanji. Man, how are you? How are you doing today? Say hello to everybody.
Once again, I'm back. Yeah, I'm doing alright. Yeah, I'm doing alright.
I wasn't expecting that whatsoever. But okay, guys. So you guys saw the title, you saw the thumbnail. Today we're gonna be talking about Kale versus Broly, their futures in the series, and which one we're more excited for. And the way I want to structure this discussion today is taking one character at a time and really trying to break down the future of this character, what they can do with it, and which one is the more interesting, at least from the perspective of Dragon Ball in its long-running history. And I feel like it's important to start with probably one of the reasons a lot of y'all came in here. A lot of people love Broly. A lot of people want to see more from Broly in the future of Dragon Ball Super, and I completely understand that. And as I covered in one of my more recent videos, even though I will sit here and tell you that Dragon Ball Super Broly is not my favorite movie in the Dragon Ball canon, or just in general, any of the Dragon Ball movies, be it Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, anything that they did with Dragon Ball GT, with the TV specials for Dragon Ball Z and GT, or just Dragon Ball Super, I do have to say that putting Broly front and center from now on, now that he's been introduced into the main series, is really interesting to me. I feel like they did change him just enough to give the future of the series a lot of stuff to go on. You have this budding romance between him and Chilai, some of this anxiety and maybe flashbacks of his dad and what his dad taught him, bringing in Saiyan heritage, history, and everything else that Paragus might have told Broly, the person that he legitimately respects in this version, sometime in the future, while also building around this planet that he's on with people who might be fracturing off from the Frieza Force or trying to hide from Frieza's rule in Universe 6 and don't go to Earth for whatever reason. They go and hang out with Broly, so he has this entire community. He's seen as a leader. There's a lot of different ways that you can play off his character that I think are incredibly interesting, but the mere fact that they reintroduced him, they put him at least in the same light as he was introduced in the Dragon Ball Z movies with movie 8, and the fact that he still does rage out even though they changed it just a little bit. I'm not entirely sure if they have all these ideas ready to go with him. They're going to use him in the best possible light, and I'm worried about the way they're going to develop his character in the future of the series. So those are just the highs and lows of what I think of him. Kanji, what are your thoughts on Broly in particular before we get to Kale?
Well, interestingly, just to be a sort of devil's advocate here in your instance, is I actually really enjoyed the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie for a lot of reasons. But one of them definitely being the fact that they really did ground Broly as a character. Yes, he's quite feral, and he's very sort of naive, and he doesn't really understand everything that's going on in the world. But it's only the similar sort of instance that Goku was at the beginning of Dragon Ball. The only difference between Broly and Goku at the moment was Broly's an adult confused, you know. But he definitely got a lot of character development throughout the film until he sort of lost his temper and sort of started raging out and losing control. And even to that point, they were trying to give different reasons for it. And I think that is something that was really interesting about it, because they weren't just sort of saying, oh, yeah, well, he's really powerful, he can't control himself, and therefore he's gone insane. It was more so the fact that he was like tapping into this power of the Uzaru transformation, or the Great Ape, without actually changing form, which is very similar to what they kind of do with Super Saiyan 4 in GT. And so doing those sort of comparisons, really, they were sort of really layering Broly as a character in comparison to what they did in the previous films. So I was really digging what they did with that. But I'm not sure I can trust his little green girlfriend, though.
You think she's going to leave him? She's going to cheat on him? What do you think she's going to do?
Well, exactly, because you can't trust her, because you can't trust her because she lie.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting that. That's pretty funny.
Sorry.
Okay, no, okay, no, I like that. Look, okay, seriously, that's ridiculous. Okay, no, seriously.
Sorry, Sean's laughing as well now. Just like across the...
Okay, but no, seriously, okay. I understand where you're coming from with that, and I feel like they can use Broly, his character, and I feel like a lot of people pointed this out in one way or the other, but I really like the idea of the introduction of Broly, even though Toritaro did not adapt the movie into the manga, but just really went ahead with his own thing. And if the anime comes back, they might do Moro, they might do their own thing. But if they do the whole Moro storyline, and we don't know exactly where the arc is going in the manga at this point, at least at the time of recording this, it would be really interesting if they bring back Broly, they bring back that whole Zaru bringing out your power without having to transform, and bring hold.
Sorry, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you with that, but I suddenly just had a vision in my head of like Moro's subordinate sort of going, "Hey, we're picking up a really high power level from this planetoid over there," and he's like, he goes to Vampa and he's like, "There must be a lot of power in this planet," so he fucking sucks it up, and then it just makes him weaker.
Because it's like so poisonous, yeah.
It's such a desolate land.
But okay, getting back on point though, like just having Broly come back and using him as this introduction into a brand new transformation for Goku and Vegeta to strive for, but giving it directly to Broly in the future, and not really giving Goku and Vegeta an easy access to it, would make Broly not only more interesting, but would really help push the main characters of the television show or the manga into new and interesting heights that kind of veer away from the god power or something that Dragon Ball Super, as much as I enjoyed it, but as much criticism as you want to throw at it, the biggest thing there is they overused it, and it doesn't have the same weight that it did when it was first introduced back in Battle of Gods or Fukkatsu no F when those movies came about. So it would be an interesting, and I guess it would just be a really interesting thing. It's like it would be creative while also being kind of a nostalgic new transformation for everyone to kind of glare at for at least the foreseeable future of Dragon Ball, by exploring Broly's character, his transformations, his power-ups, his history, philosophy with the Saiyan race, what he knows, and everything else that he was taught as a young boy, coming out and seeing how much of a sympathetic person he is, what he's willing to take on his shoulders, especially with the planet that he inhabits and anyone who comes to see him, and just anything related to that. I can totally see how that works, and I feel like that's going to be really interesting going forward. But I wanted to, unless you have something else to say about Broly, I feel like we should get into Kale, because we don't want this to be an incredibly long video.
Well, actually, it's kind of a good segue to go into Kale, because if we're talking about sort of unique transformations and things that they can explore with the characters, yes, we know that they're sort of giving Kaioken Blue to Goku, and they've given Evolution to Vegeta, and now they're almost sort of giving Ultra Instinct to Goku, but albeit scarcely, which, to be perfectly honest, I'm fine with. But if they're to be doing it like that, then that really means that with Broly, if they ever did that sort of Super Saiyan 4 type transformation, then it really clues in nicely to the Berserk transformation that Kale got, because, of course, that didn't last. And for one reason I think that might actually be is because they were writing the script for that, like Toriyama was, whilst they were animating the Tournament of Power. So it could have been a case where they suddenly found out what he was doing and went, but we've already got a Broly. And then it's like, well, you'll have to do something about it. Then they're like, okay, well, let's put her on a diet. And then all of a sudden, like, she just, like, slims down and starts fighting alongside Caulifla in that particularly... Yeah, I liked what they were doing with it, and I quite liked the fact that Kale mastered the Berserk form, as it were. To be perfectly honest, I think she's got quite a lot of exploration to still do with her transformation.
I agree. And I really think, we talked about this before we started recording, and I know a lot of people might come after me in the comments for saying this. I realize that I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse here, but I'm going to just go ahead and say, as much as I do appreciate Broly, and it would be much easier and probably more likely, more beneficial for them to play off of Broly, sell him as a character, and make him a mainstay character in Universe 7. More so on the lines of not only his popularity, but also the fact that he's already in Universe 7, and Goku can get to him very easily. He could be put into stories much more effortlessly than bringing in a completely different universe, unless Universe 6 has something, is intrinsically tied to the story being told. Broly makes a lot more sense. Broly's the type of character I expect from the future, and a character, as I already said, I want in the future. But the way they introduced Kale, I always thought was really interesting and reminded me a whole lot of Bleach. And if you're new to the channel, I mean, literally, if you've been here for a very long time, you've been following me, then thank you. But I do love Bleach, and as I've said, especially in my much earlier days, years and years ago, I love Yodoichi and Soifan. I love their interaction. I love their character relationship. I love the fact that Soifan acts as kind of this little sister, idolizing her big sister in Yodoichi, and the fact that they kind of have this love-hate relationship that's more affection than friendship, and the way they play off of it. And yeah, you might sit there and say that's pandering, that's trying to create characters that aren't needed and just trying to shove things into a story, but it's different. We've never really seen that relationship in Dragon Ball, and even though I would argue that it's not as compelling as the one told in Bleach, Kale and Caulifla have that relationship, and it's something I would love to see kind of explored a little bit more in the future, especially if you have Kaba acting as kind of the stone cold middleman, the sane person in the group, as you will, kind of in between them. This weird odd couple of Three's Company situation. It would be really interesting if they went that direction, and it's one of the reasons I desperately want to see not only Kale but Caulifla and Kaba as well. But I think it's not going on too much of a stretch to say if Broly's coming back, then Sheetlai's coming back, and Planet Vampa's coming back. Then if Kale's coming back, of course Caulifla and maybe even Kaba are coming back in a major way. And having those three characters showing who they are and really trying to hone their stories with what was introduced in Dragon Ball Super, to me, is really interesting. And if I had to choose, I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but if I had to choose, it would be those three than just bringing back Broly. But, I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, the interesting thing is actually I started writing my own script for what I would do if I had like a sort of my own Universe 6 OVA before. And the idea that I kind of had in that was basically that because of how Universe 6 performed in the Tournament of Power, it made sense that Vados and Champa would actually really want to try and strengthen their own universe. So what they would want to do is they'd want to sort of take what they had, take the best players that they had, and just make them stronger. Because if a situation ever like that occurred again, they don't want to be at the bottom of the list, or like, because they really struggled during the Tournament of Power. They had to rely on Patara and all sorts, and Hit wasn't quite such the golden egg that they thought he was going to be. So generally speaking, I kind of was thinking in this script idea, the sort of nice way to go with it is the fact that Kale can't control her temper. You know, it's been her downfall before. So Vados would sort of train her to use God Ki in the sense of Super Saiyan, the God, just the standard one, the red form. Simply because it relies more on the stamina sort of aspect of it and less on the power. So using that, she doesn't have to use so much of her focus on fighting, so much as sort of avoiding, evading, and all this kind of thing. So it's sort of good for her mentally as well as for physically. And then with Caulifla, because she's got she's got a temper anyway, but she's not out of control. She's just kind of fiery. Then it makes sense really for her to use the blue form, because the blue form is of course more sort of aggressive. And I think it would be very interesting to go that route with them both. So one of them has so one of them uses one and the other one uses the other, and then they get taught to fight together, like as a team, because that's what they did in the Tournaments of Power. which is really what Whis was saying that he wanted Goku and Vegeta to do, which is to fight side by side. So really, I think that it would be a really good kind of and cool sort of aspect to make on it, because when you've got Broly, who's a single fighter, and he's sort of, even though he's got Chilai with him, he's not going to fight with Chilai, you know. But
No, because she definitely does not have the strength that they were looking for, even in Dragon Ball Super. That's clear.
maybe Lemo though.
Yeah, maybe.
So
maybe.
Broly and Lemo versus Kale and Khalifa. Book it now, Toriyama.
Oh my goodness, that's it's not the best match ever, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, but basically, I'm sort of saying that you can use the single entity that is Broly and then work him in a certain way, even if he's got similar transformations to Kale, to a point where, because Kale fights side by side with Caulifla, then you've got the sort of paradigm shift into the one-on-one versus two sort of fights that we wanted more of, I think, when they introduced the androids. And then we got quite a few of them in Goku Black and Zamasu. So that was fun, but I want to see more of that. You know, I want to see more of the 2-on-2 stuff.
And that is one of the benefits, like I said, with Kale bringing her back, the way that they were introducing her in Dragon Ball Super. It's not just having Kale, it's kind of a Three's Company situation where you have Kaba, Kale, and Caulifla. They all have to come back, and you have to explore these characters in a bigger sense. And then after the way the Tournament of Power kind of left those individuals off, you might even bring in not only Vados and Champa, but maybe even Hit himself. I mean, where is he after all of this? The way he was kind of talking himself up, working for Universe 6, I'm working. Is he assassin anymore, or is he going to be fighting for the greater good and fighting to help protect the universe? Is he going to join the Sadala Force? Of course, that's probably not what's going to happen. But I'm just saying in general, like, you bring back those characters, you bring back a multitude of very interesting characters, which, while Broly in himself is very interesting, I think the limit of his character is staying in Universe 7 and focusing on Universe 7 people, when I think the appeal, at least for myself and a lot of people I hope who are still listening to this, the appeal of Dragon Ball Super as a whole was always, from the moment they teased it, the multiverse. Universe 6,
Absolutely.
Universe 11, Universe 10 with Goku Black, the universes that we didn't even get to see in the Tournament of Power, Universe 1 and 12 and 5 and 8, and those those ones didn't fight, and we don't know anything about them. We don't know who they have kind of waiting in the wings and people who are going to be antagonists in the first place. And yet, no matter what, Dragon Ball, with all of that lore, with all of those avenues to explore, and everything related to the Super Dragon Balls being in Universe 6 and 7, these universes being intricately connected, the whole concept of Namex, the Namekian people and their background, how they're able to create Dragon Balls in the first place, if the Super Dragon Balls were kind of out there and created by God and all this other stuff. For whatever reason, the creators of the franchise want to pigeonhole us into Universe 7. And I really think that introducing characters and exploring characters in other universes, even if they're not going to be the most inherently interesting, because I do think that there is a debate to have here about whether Kale or Broly is more interesting than the other and what they can bring to the future. I think bringing in Kale does open up the door for more exploration and more characters in the future than simply focusing on Broly. But I understand the marketing aspect and the fan fever going around that particular character, and the need and want for him to be a center focus for the future of the series. So maybe we can have it both ways if this franchise goes on for the next couple of years. But I would have to say Kale is what I want. I think Broly is what we're going to get. And I don't think that there's a bad answer in any of this. I just want more forward progression for a 30-year-old series, if you understand what I mean.
Absolutely, and I agree. I mean, one thing that you can sort of expect really is that, I mean, they know that they've got these things. They know that they've got these universes that they can delve into. the interesting thing about the actual universes that didn't take part in the Tournament of Power is those particular ones had Gods of Destruction designed by Toyotaro. So that might actually be him waiting to introduce those universes at a later time of his own merit. So like they he can do whatever he wants with them, which I think is would be a good thing because obviously he's got something in mind with a lot of them anyway. But to be perfectly honest, the way that they introduced Broly by sort of saying, by the way, there is a really strong guy in your universe, but he's just not going to pop up until now. And because of that, that sort of means that they could do the same thing with Universe 6 and Universe 11 and all these universes we come to sort of get to know over the Tournament of Power. They could even have like Universe 2, somebody who's mad with love or something like that.
Or evil. I mean, love and evil. I mean, like they can have a balancing act there. Like I agree.
Could have that psychotic sort of person that maybe like fancies Goku or something. She's like, will you leave me a strand of your hair?
Princess, what is it, like Princess Queen Snake or something in the Snake and Snake way, like the canonized version of that, but Broly level in terms of being a force to be reckoned with. That would be interesting.
But you know there are so many things that they can do, and because of the hope of the introduction of the Dragon Ball Room for the anime side of things, hopefully it's something where we'll get different OVAs based in the other universes, and they could even do run-off series. They can give them their own mangas. I mean, Jocko has his own manga. There's no reason that the other universes can't. I mean, I'd like to see a Ginyu Force one, a Pride Trooper one, all these kind of things, and that's all possible now that the Dragon Ball Room is there. And so even if we don't get more Kale and Khalifa at the beginning, we at least know we're going to at some point because they've kept tickling our fancies. I've PG'd it there. They've kept tickling our sort of fancies with the idea of the of Vegeta going to meet the Saiyan King of Sadala. And they've kept sort of jabbing that every so often, like, you know, they did it in Universe 6, and then in the Tournament of Power, Kaba mentioned it again, and Vegeta was like, of course, and, you know, I told you I was going to go and meet him, wasn't I? So, you know, they're waiting for it. There's something there. And so we are going to get them at some point, but we just have to wait for it. And that's the bit I don't like doing.
It's kind of sad. Like, the last thing I'll say here is I agree with you. It is kind of sad that we're still waiting, because I'm sure, like everyone else listening to this and you as well, we thought that we would be getting at least the hint of that by now. But with this cancellation, or as I call it, like an extended hiatus with Dragon Ball Super, because we all know it's coming back in some way, shape, or form in the future, we have to keep waiting. And they're building it up. They're building up hype or something. I mean, I know you're out of the States, but at least in the States terms right now, it's Dragon Ball Super is the Popeye's chicken sandwich of the anime community. It's like, oh yeah, it's out there, and we're teasing it with Heroes and Dokkan and you know, Legends and everything else that we're putting out there, but we don't have the product everywhere. And the product everywhere is not the manga or anything. A lot of people want the movies and the anime to run side by side. We want it to be just as consistent and everlasting as One Piece. And I understand a lot of people are going to hate that because it's going to fall in quality, and hopefully they're taking their time to make the best quality product out there. But a lot of us just want to have it come back, because Dragon Ball Super didn't have the best quality. It wasn't the best told story, but that didn't stop it from being exciting for a lot of people and wanting us to come back and really experience that community outreach and that community love and passion and experience as we shared in Dragon Ball Super together. So that's what we're looking forward. And if that means more Broly content, then fine. I'm totally down for that. I want to see it. I made my case as to why I feel like it's going to be better this time around than it was when they first did the introduction and then did an immediate sequel with the movies, and he had no real bearing other than the movies and the video games for decades. And then, or it's Kale and Khalifa and Kaba and Universe 6 and all the other universes and anything they want to do in the future with OVAs or anything else like that. So
yeah, I just wanted to
any
say
last words?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm really interested, not just to, obviously, I've enjoyed hearing all of your thoughts throughout this, because it's been very sort of, I'm sure a lot of people feel that it's very polarizing as a subject to think that you could only maybe have one or the other, and it would disappoint a lot of people. But if you had to choose, I assume you're picking Kale, right?
I am picking Kale. Like, I guess that's the whole point of it. Like, I am picking Kale because I feel like picking Kale opens the door for more exploration into the multiverse. I am kind of tired with Broly's the main antagonist who's been in Universe 7 this entire time of the movie, and then Moro is been a prisoner in Universe 7 this entire time. He just shows up, just happens to show up now, and we're going to bring back time travel, but it all takes place in Universe 7. We have a multiverse now. Let's play in that sandbox. And Dragon Ball, outside of maybe 2 tournament arcs, has refused to do that. And I really think it would help open up the door quicker. But I understand that Broly has a lot of fans, a legion of fans, and they want to see him back better than ever. And I do think that there's a story there, something I would really love to see told in the future, and I can get behind that. But as long as we get the exploration sometime in the future, it doesn't have to do anything with Kale. Just as long as we get an opening into the multiverse sometime in the future, then I can be okay with any direction.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I'd probably go with Kale as well, simply for the fact that I think there's more that they can actually kind of explore with the characters, just as you were saying, but I also think there's more to be gained from that as well. Something else, because obviously Broly now being sort of a good guy, that's something they haven't done before, which would be interesting. I'm not going to lie, but I imagine the novelty's going to wear off pretty quick when the guy can barely speak. He's possibly going to do something where they ended up teaming up with Bulma or something and Chilai, and they end up making him really smart. So he has that kind of Bruce Banner sort of really smart when he's small and skinny, and then all of a sudden he roids out and just becomes Rage Broly, very, very cross indeed Broly, and then becomes sort of like, he can't concentrate on anything. And so yeah. I think, that's something that I have a feeling they probably would do at some point. And then everybody's literally smarter than Goku. But to be perfectly honest, other than that, I would like to know everybody else's opinions. So, like the people listening to the video and listening to the podcast or whatever it is, this is what is this? What is this?
It's an overly long video. That's totally fine. It is kind of like, I kind of view all my videos as kind of an open podcast discussion type. So it's either like 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes, whatever. And I hope everyone enjoys it when they're in the car, working out, or they just in general want to listen to it. I think we have fun discussions on this channel.
I hope everybody enjoys it if they're alone in the dark.
No, okay. Okay, man, I can I just say, I really do appreciate you coming back on the channel and just having this conversation with me. It's been a lot of fun with this one, the last one we did that was up on my channel a couple days ago, and I really hope that you're okay. Again, I'm pretty sure this is going out before any of this happens, so if anyone is in the area, make sure to go check out Saiyan because it's going to be epic. I mean, Kanji has been showing me all of these awesome things that he's working on. I've been kind of following it, and people who are going to be there, stuff that you can buy, things that you can do, and just in general, it's going to be the Kamehacon of the UK, and you need to go check it out if you can. Like, if you have the resources, if you're in the area, whatever, definitely make sure to go do that. Anyway, any last things to say, man?
No. Not just if you have the resources, but go anyway. But no, seriously, guys, I want to know your guys' thoughts and opinions on what you think about Broly and Kale as well. Mark, I really appreciate everything you were saying. I do think that maybe we should knock up a couple hashtags for all these wonderful people to leave in your comment section.
You're putting this on. You're putting this on my lap, man. I don't know. Like, this isn't a debate. We don't have this like pre-worked out to be really funny and snippy and stuff. I mean, we have that one Kale hashtag from long ago that I don't think we should really bring up. But no, we'll think about that for the next videos, guys. If y'all think of any funny hashtags, then put them in the comment section, and I will pin the funniest ones at the very top, so that one gets as much recognition as possible, because I do think that that's a real fun exercise. But Kanji,
hashtag Hulk Kale, all one word.
Okay, Kanji, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Although I'm sure you're probably questioning that decision now at this point. But thank you everybody for listening to me in my weird sort of ways. When I'm quiet for too long, it all builds up inside me and it all comes out like one horrible burst pimple of awkward humor.
That's too much of a graphic idea. Anyway, guys, I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. And also go down to the description section below where you're going to find the links not only to my Twitter, but also the Twitter of World King Kanji and his YouTube as well if you want to go look all of that stuff up. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. It's been real.
Wow.